Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our discussion. Today, we'll be talking about paranoid personality disorder, and as we go ahead, we'll just refer to it as PPD. So, paranoid personality disorder is a chronic and pervasive mental health condition, and it has to do with a long standing pattern of distrust and suspicion of others. When somebody is in this situation, the person lacks trust even for no reason. Now, this situation is actually different from temporary feeling of paranoia or fear brought by specific situations. So if you do something to me that makes me to lack the trust or to fear you or to have some paranoia against you, it is a different situation from what we're talking about here, which is supposed to be chronic. Usually, it begins at early adulthood, and the core belief here in this particular disorder is that others are constantly perceived to be deceiving or causing harm or intending to exploit them. So those who suffer from this disorder, they actually live a life of defensiveness. They find themselves being on the guard all the time. They find themselves being alert all the time. Now, concerning the diagnosis, before we go ahead, bear in mind that only a qualified mental health professional is supposed to diagnose someone of a mental health disorder. Now, normally in medical field, before you go to the hospital, you have something that's bothering you and you have some symptoms. Now, what can you see and suspect that will make a mental health professional to be the one now to conclude that this is what you are going through? Once you see yourself being so suspicious without sufficient basis, you are likely to be tilting towards this direction. You see yourself with persistent, unjustified doubt, it can be leading to this situation. When you discover that you are very reluctant to confide because you think that the information will be used maliciously against you. Remember, we're not talking about a single situation here, something that persists over time. If you discover too that you find yourself reading hidden meaning, threatening meaning into harmless remarks, you could be going towards that. You discover that you bear a lot of grudges even for things that are not necessary, you could be going towards PPD. You find yourself in a situation where anything someone says, you perceive an attack, even though every other person cannot see the attack in it, you could be driving towards this. For those who are married, you discover a situation of recurrent suspicion without justification. You are suspecting your spouse of infidelity without justification. You could be tilting towards this. But mind you, this does not bring you to a conclusion because some of these symptoms we have listed, they also exist in other mental health disorders. For example, people who suffer from psychotic disorders like schizophrenia or other delusional disorders, they likely have similar symptoms. So it is not your place to conclude that you have this until a mental health expert diagnoses that. Now, what are the causes? Generally speaking, it is hard to pinpoint what is the cause of a particular mental health disorder. But talking about PPD, where we are, we will discover that it is either genetic, biological, environmental, or a combination of two or all of this condition. Genetically, here, we are talking about a situation where the person suffering from this disorder is having some links to someone who, or biological links to someone who has schizophrenia or other delusional disorders. So it is possible that someone, when you come from a family that there is someone having schizophrenia also, you may be exposed or you may be vulnerable to it. Biologically, We're talking about abnormalities in the brain where part of the brain, usually known as the amygdala, which processes fear and emotional memories, and another part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, which manages executive functions and social cognition. When these parts of the brain are not functioning well, you may find yourself in situations like this. Environmentally, it could be a situation of childhood trauma and adversity. It could be early learning. For example, you come from a family that they are too careful, suspecting everyone. It could be victimization for adults who have been victims of significant trauma. Now, what is important here is how do I relate with someone who is in this situation? The first thing is that you have to try your best to be consistent and reliable. Since they are already suspicious of everybody, you somehow have the obligation to prove yourself. Unfortunately, it will not always work out, but you have to try. Secondly, you have to be clear and direct. Avoid ambiguous language because they may read what you did not intend. Maintain professional boundaries with such people. Acknowledge their feelings. Don't brush it off. It can be very offensive to them. Give them space. It could be physical space or emotional space, but sometimes they need to be on their own and process what they are thinking. Focus when you find yourself in a situation where you have to convince them about something, you need to focus on facts and practicalities. Do not be overly warm or familiar with them. Now, don't get me twisted. What I'm saying is you don't have to be too nice to them, because being too nice for them, they see it as some kind of having a hidden agenda. So, in a world that they consider it to be evil, that they are scared of everybody, being too nice is suspicious to them again. Do not joke or be sarcastic with them. When I say joke here now, I'm not saying you should be frowning with them, but avoid the things that you could say to me jokingly, don't say it to them. Don't say anything that has traces of sarcasm to them, because they will get twisted. Do not challenge their beliefs directly. You may not believe what they are believing, but do not just challenge them directly, because they will get it wrongly. Do not act secretively around them. Once you act secretively around them and they catch you, they succeed to discover your secret, it increases their lack of trust and it increases their fear. Do not take their situation personally. Like when they behave like that, you need to understand them. Remember, people in this situation, since they are suspicious, since they lack trust, since they are always alert, they can likely be violent. So when we're talking here about people with paranoid personality disorder, we are talking about people who are always on the guard. Their safety is their concern. You stand behind them, they feel that you want to strangle them. You greet them, they feel that you want to come close and act. You don't greet them, they feel that you have a problem with them. So it's a complex situation where such people need special care. And for you to conclude that someone is in this situation, only a mental health specialist is qualified to say that this person is like this, and it is done after series of assessment. So in a situation like this, you need to build trustworthy relationship with these people and know that it's a very slow process, and you have to be very patient with them. It is good to seek help for them, because in most cases, people with this situation, they don't seek help on their own, because even seeking that help is still suspicious to them. So thank you very much for listening. This is where we end for today, and see you next time.